Hideo Kojima! Is he a genius? Is he overrated? Or is he just plain crazy? With his new horror game OD being teased, and his recent history of building entire games around delivering packages and letting us see Norman Reedus' ass, I figured what better time to dig into this odd enigma of a man to answer, once and for all, what exactly is Hideo Kojima? Long before he was defining stealth action experiences or creating a character solely devoted to his pants, Hideo Kojima lived a pretty tough life as a kid. His father perished when he was 13 and his mother passed a few years later. Both of these passings left a rather indelible mark on this fledgling creator. In fact, you could characterize his early years as rather harsh. While he was smitten with film and loved writing fiction, he made the jump to the oh-so-popular video game industry, which at the time was kind of a joke. Deviating from the established norm is never easy, but in Japanese culture, it can be social suicide. Kojima has talked a bit about having literally no friends who supported his move into gaming, and he frequently had to lie about his job and told people he was in finance. He was the subject of intense ridicule, and even once at a wedding reception where his friend was getting married, the groom said in front of everyone, "Kojima's a very talented and otherwise likable person, but I am sorry to say that for some unknown reason, he has decided to join a video game company." Now, I don't know if this man holds grudges, but if I were him, I would name that character in Metal Gear Solid 4 who's constantly crying and shitting himself after that groom who said those terrible things. I mean, I don't know what Kojima did, but that's what I would do. I was pretty shocked when I was doing research for this part of the video to find that Kojima's upbringing wasn't that great. I mean, his parents passed when he was young, he jumped into an industry that was ostracized, and he didn't really have the support of anyone as he really went out on a limb here. And honestly, regardless of how you feel about this guy's games, and don't worry, we're gonna get to some of the weird stuff in a bit, I think it's pretty impressive that he rose above his circumstances and made a name for himself in this industry. So, you know what? Good on you, Kojima. But let's stop looking at the man and shift our focus to his art. Here's an abridged version for those who are unfamiliar. Kojima makes Metal Gear for the NES. At a time when most games looked like this, he said, nah, how about we make a game like this? It was revolutionary and loved by everyone. Kojima expands his expertise during this era by making another Metal Gear game and two cyberpunk-inspired games called Snatcher and Policenauts. He hits nothing but net every time. There are two things this man establishes early on. First, he can defy audience expectations and break the bounds of genres while pushing technology to its limit. And second, he loves weird cyberpunk stuff.
I'm right here. I don't need to run or hide from you.
そして肉体だけではなく、人の心にも宇宙は冷酷だ。
These are good things. In an industry dominated by corporate, boring games, it's great to have weird stuff in our video games. Then we get Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2 and MGS3, MGS4, MGS5, and each one of these games defies audience expectations. In Metal Gear Solid 1, you have to fight this boss. What do? You shoot him or throw grenades at him? No, of course not. You have to take your controller out of a port and move it to a different port while he reads your memory card data. Folks, I cannot tell you how scary it was to fight Psycho Mantis for the first time in the late 1990s at 3 a.m. and have him start talking shit about your Super Smash Bros. Save.
Oh, so you've played Super Smash Bros. Melee before?
Ah! How does he know? In Metal Gear Solid 2, Kojima defies expectations again. You want to play the game as this guy that you like from the first game? Fuck you, you have to play the game as this guy who is naked most of the time. In Metal Gear Solid 3, you want to play as a guy? Fuck you, you're an alligator. Metal Gear Solid 4 takes place during an explosion of games based around young male protagonists. So who do we play as? A hot, young, cool snake? Nope. Fuck you, you're old now. And in Metal Gear Solid 5, there's not even an ending to the game. Thanks, Konami. Talk about innovation. We all know Kojima defined himself in the industry through the Metal Gear games, which took his classic stealth adventure and infused it with his, let's say, unique writing and gameplay elements. But during this time, he was also working on games with massive innovations, some of which have not been replicated to this day. Gamers are a bunch of basement-dwelling Neanderthals. Just look at me. This skin has not seen the sun since about 1998, but Kojima came around and he made a game called Boktai The Sun Is In Your Hand. And guess what? If you want to get powerful in this game, you actually have to step outside because there's a solar panel on the cartridge. And if you stand in sunlight, your character is stronger. That's awesome. Or how about the time he made a demo of a horror game that is literally better than 99% of horror games out there, and all you do is walk in a big circle. You're just going around and around and around, and it's super boring, and then, oh my god, what the fuck is that? So with all this praise, you may think I'm going to declare Hideo Kojima a complete and total genius who is absolutely perfect. After all, his games are highly lauded and he's racked up many, many awards. But unfortunately, that's only half of the story, and there is a darker side to the work of this man. Like anyone in any profession, as Kojima racked up more wins under his belt, he gained significantly more influence. Back in the early 90s, when he was making games for the NES, he likely had severe limitations from other creative minds. But as he attained more and more success, he was granted more independence. This happens to anyone who is on this trajectory, and it actually reminds me of someone else. Someone who made a series of creative works with a massive amount of involvement from others who were significantly talented and not afraid to challenge his ideas. But then that person eventually got sole creative control of his property, and no one was bold enough to question his decisions. So he injected his nuanced and beautiful story with subatomic particles that control everything, and a cartoon rabbit, and oh god, it's George Lucas! Now, I'm not saying that Kojima is bad or that George Lucas is bad, but I am saying that there is an eerie similarity between these two creators that we have to explore. You see, when it comes to the works of these creators, both of them started off by being rogue artists whose ambitions redefined a genre. And while they were constrained by a variety of elements in their early days, eventually they reached a level of respect that put them in positions of unquestionable power. Now, for better or worse, in that position, they were able to create projects that were driven entirely by their singular creative vision. And the results are iffy, to say the least.
I hate it when he does that.
This is where I start to get pushback from the Hideo Kojima is an absolute genius, how dare you question his authority, you filthy plebeian crowd. Hey, look, if you have time to write that in the comments, go ahead and give a guy a like and subscribe. I don't always talk shit about creators in my monthly videos. I just sometimes do. Hey, Todd, get back to the Starfield video, you hack! I did damn near everything you can do in Death Stranding 1, and I beat Death Stranding 2 after completing most of the content. I enjoyed both games and thought there were elements to them that were amazing. There were moments in these games that were genuinely jaw-dropping, and I have a number of experiences from both titles that I will treasure forever. But they are far from perfect. Let's just look at Death Stranding 2 and we can see that some decisions, likely driven by Kojima, are rather odd. Why do I have to watch 3 separate cutscenes of Sam drinking soda to maximize my stamina? Why are there multiple cutscenes whenever I have to have Sam take a shower when he gets back to his base? Why are there half a dozen characters whose names are something man, like this was written by a 5-year-old? Why do I have to sit on a rail and wait to get to my destination in real time? Why does Sam seemingly have no hard feelings towards Fragile for accidentally getting his kid killed? Like, wouldn't he be mad at her? Like, at all? Oh wait, they're kissing now? Where did that come from? What is even happening with... Why does Sam never show emotion to losing his child except like once or twice? Yeah, I know he's like suppressing it and he doesn't like believe his child's dead, but wouldn't that life-changing event fuck him up like forever? Norman Reedus, you're reuniting with your child and this is how you act? What? Don't you know how to act, Norman Reedus?
Yeah.
Death Stranding is perhaps Kojima's most polarizing series to date, and while there's some amazing parts to these games, there are also some really odd design choices. And frankly, I can't help but feel like we're seeing a George Lucas sort of effect happening here. This guy is an industry legend who has done so many amazing things, so the dissenting voices around him are likely few or none at all. This means that whatever odd he wants to put in his games, even if it's absolutely stupid, will go into his games. And this is my biggest problem with modern Kojima. Yes, he is an innovator and delivers highly unique experiences no other studios would even think to tackle. But with his own studio and near unilateral control over his projects, this means he can put whatever crazy shit he wants into his games. Like in Death Stranding 2, towards the end of the game, you're in a fight with the big bad, and things are not looking good. And then, out of nowhere, a character you thought died comes back to save you. This is a moment of triumph, the ultimate chance for a cool, action-packed entrance where this character saves the day. Let's see what Kojima chose for this character to do to announce his return. When I saw this shit, I literally burst into laughter. Yes, I know, there's gonna be people telling me that this is high art and I'm too stupid to understand, but come on, what the f is this? I mean, you spent all this time building to this moment, scores of hours leading to this confrontation, and then you just eliminate any tension you've built up by having this guy do an entire dance routine for like 3 minutes. I truly believe Death Stranding would be a superior series if Kojima did not have complete and total control. Just give him like 80% control. You know why I know that Kojima has complete and total control over the series? Well, if you look at the opening credits, he lists himself like 40 fucking times. He puts himself in constellations and inserts his character into every game as well. Jeez, dude, we get it. You're in charge. Lighten up a little bit. If he had some people around him to help narrow his focus and maybe shave off some of the more unintuitive ideas he has, I think his games would be a whole lot better. Detractors to this will say, no, his games are weird and wonderful simply due to the fact that he has complete executive control, but hear me out on this. Would making Sam get full stamina from 1 drink instead of 3 really change this game for the worse and make it less Kojima-like? Would having Norman Reedus show real human emotion at the loss of his baby make the game worse? Would making some of these half-hour cutscenes a little bit more concise be that terrible? Of course not. All of these minor changes would make the game better. But I f***ing promise you, no one is crossing Hideo Kojima. And let's remember, Kojima's work that initially redefined the industry primarily came during times when he did not have full control. During this time, he likely had to prove himself to others and had to work within some constraints. Metal Gear Solid on the NES, MGS1, MGS3. While he was in charge for all of these games, he did not have complete and total authority on all aspects of the game as he does today. Also, he was under a publisher that made things difficult for him, so he couldn't completely dive into his own vision. Don't worry, I'm not about to suggest that Konami is good. I could make a full 8-hour video about why they're terrible. But let's just look at this video from E3 2010 where one of their developers talks about a game, and you can see why their studio is not exactly up to snuff.
Hi. The battle with armies of the more than 1 million troops. 1 million troops.
Hey Tommy, are you okay?
Yes, don't worry.
What's wrong with you? Hey, Tommy, what are you doing? It's strictly confidential that we have a real model for this title.
God, I miss E3. Anyway, perhaps the way to keep this guy at his A game is not to give him complete and total creative control into every aspect of his projects. I mean, when I was playing Death Stranding 2, I just had a podcast or YouTube video on in the background while I drove around roads and upgraded stuff. Then during a story part, I'd pause what I was listening, absorb what was happening, and get back to the grind. Was it the worst thing ever? Of course not. And there are parts of Death Stranding 2 that I really loved. such as the part where I built a network of zip lines through mountainous terrain. I felt very accomplished and happy doing that. But what didn't make me feel accomplished or happy was taking the same fucking delivery on the same roads to the same place for the 8th time so I could hear a character with the depth of a Neil Breen protagonist wax poetic about how awesome I am. Side note, if you put Hideo Kojima's exposition next to Neil Breen's exposition, I'm pretty sure they're equally ridiculous.
I was approaching a robotic, humanoid state.
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human. Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House. It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago.
I am not of this earth. I am artificial intelligence from far into the future. I have taken on this human body in order to communicate with the humans.
I propose that mammalian umbilici are a sort of mimesis of the strand that then evolved over time.
I've been hacking into government and corporate international secrets all over the world. I've got to get this work done. And I'm going to expose them all.
Don't you need a password? Of course, but there are ways. Are you a hacker? Yep, that describes me pretty well.
Here's the truth about Hideo Kojima that I think both his fans and his haters can agree on. This man almost always provides us with weird and unique experiences you cannot find elsewhere. There is no one else in the industry who will take the risks he takes or go in the directions he goes, and I think that is something that should be applauded. In fact, simply by virtue of the weird stuff he does, I think I'll always buy and beat the games he puts out. I mean, in what other game can you run away from godlike monsters in a hospital before having a giant whale jump on you? In an industry dominated by corporate boardrooms trying to appeal to as many people as possible, we need weird things like this. Weird is great, but I think his games would ultimately be better if he had someone bold enough to tell him when his ideas got a little bit too ridiculous. I mean, a dense and layered plot can be interesting, but when your characters are all written like robots and have the dumbest names ever, it just makes me groan. Sure, building a network that links together an entire continent is fulfilling, but it can also be insanely boring. And with a little bit of outside creativity, the journey could be far more interesting. Also, why do I have to watch Sam take a shower in the same fucking cutscene every time? Everyone skips this shit, so why even include it? Is Norman Reedus' ass really worth this, Kojima? Also, how are you gonna have Margaret Qualley, Elle Fanning, and Hunter Schafer in your games, and the only ass I see is Norman Reedus? What are you doing, Kojima? Okay, listen, ultimately, this man is a net positive for all of us. In an industry dominated by yearly releases, microtransactions, and Ubisoft, having someone who's weird and extraordinary and goes in all these wild directions is a good thing. I just think having somebody by his side to ensure he doesn't go too far would make his games better. When I look at modern Kojima, I see two things. First and foremost, I see a man who has built a career off of challenging the status quo. He's a guy who endured pain, setbacks, and hardships that would break most people, and he has overcome all of this to carve out a legacy for himself that eclipses most others. He is truly a titan of the medium. But I also see a guy who wants to make games that give him an excuse to bring his Hollywood friends around for weird motion capture in stories that seem like they were written by Neil Breen, and no one has the balls to tell him when it's too much. I see a man so revered by a society that shuns even the most logical of resistance to authority, who is making whatever he wants, no matter how illogical some of his decisions are. This guy just said, with a straight face, that he wants to scan actual ghosts and put them into his new horror game, and no one said a fucking thing. What more proof do you need that nobody is challenging this guy? For the sake of the quality of his games, I just hope his position as God King of video games is challenged by his staff in a professional and thoughtful way when appropriate. No one is perfect, and oftentimes when someone, even someone who is very accomplished and intelligent, is given complete and total control over a project, that project inevitably has flaws that may have been fixed in a more collaborative environment. So is Hideo Kojima a genius? Yes, absolutely. He basically invented his own genre in gaming, and he continues to push the envelope today. But is he also a little bit crazy at times, and does he make missteps? Yes, that's true as well. I mean, I've had hordes of people tell me that Death Stranding is actually totally 100% fun at all times. No dude, why would I want to go on an exciting quest or solve puzzles or command armies when I can haul cargo for hours on end? How dare you question Kojima's genius? So yeah, I'm going to keep buying Hideo Kojima's games until my last breath, because I think that in an industry dominated by the mundane, he's a real bright spot, and I appreciate the fact that he's doing weird and wild things. That being said, I think if he had a group of people around him who reined in some of his odder ideas, his games would be all the better for it. So what do you think about Kojima and his games? Am I on point, or did I miss something here? I spent maybe 10 or 12 hours digging into his history and his background, but I'm sure I missed something, so if someone has something I missed, I'd love to see it in the comments. Also, a like, subscribe, or even just a comment goes a very long way for this channel, as I'm just a solo creator here. If you want to see some more of my content, go ahead and check out the videos right here, and I should have new content in about a month. Until then, hope you guys have a great one. Thanks. Bye.